Hey, y'all, welcome to the Career and Technical Education Podcast. I'm Brandon Grace.
I'm Randall Hust.
Yeah, and today it's just us.
Hey.
We haven't done one of these since our first episode.
That's it.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Man, I tell you what, I was thinking the other day, I get to talk to a lot of employers out there just because, we've talked about before, our partnerships with our community are so strong. And as a teacher, and I know you're probably in the same place, you're constantly thinking about, well, I want them to have these skills or this cutting edge technology or all these things. And it blows my mind that almost every single time I talk to somebody, it has nothing to do with a technical skill or a piece of equipment. Hey, I want them to know how to do starfish grooming or whatever. Like it's nothing like that. It's always, I just want them to show up for work on time. I want them to, be respectful. I want them to know how to interact with, a customer, all of those things. And it's like, I've got this giant textbook on how to frame a wall and you don't really care about it. And they're like, really, we can teach them the skills. Mm-hmm. We can teach them the technical skills for the job that they need, but we can't teach them how to be a good human.
Right.
And I'm like, man, and so as we were kind of talking about doing another podcast, it was like, I know that every teacher out here incorporates these into their class. Mm-hmm. And maybe some folks are looking for some good, innovative ways to do that. And so I thought maybe this would be a great time to just talk about what are soft skills and how do we get them across to our kids? So,
right. Especially working in working with Skills USA and any CTSO in general, they really do push those soft skills, or and the correct term in Skills USA language is the essential skills, the essential skills. And because those are the skills that are essential to do any job,
right?
Not just being a carpenter or being an IT person. It's the jobs that every single job needs these skills, knowing how to talk to people and how to grow as a human, and be able to listen and be able to learn and not think you know everything. And that's what they need help teaching. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, they can teach them how to be a carpenter.
Right.
It's hard to teach. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to teach somebody how to be a productive human. Mm-hmm. And you're right. And but using those, but we'll start with CTSOs.
Yeah,
since we're here.
Absolutely.
The CTSOs, like Skills USA. Skills USA has a framework. Mm-hmm. I always call it the triangle, the Illuminati, but because most CTSOs feel kind of cultish, but
right.
But they are really they're a great asset to any student and any teacher, because they have resources for both to help the student grow and the teacher grow, and also teach the teacher how to make the student grow. And like the elements like the frameworks, it teaches you personal skills, workplace skills, and academic skills. And technical skills grounded in academics. Got that wrong, but yeah, technical skills grounded in academics, and there's points below those that are essential to be creating a good employee. And every organization that I know of has something similar, right, in some form or fashion. It may not be the triangle, maybe an octagon. I don't know, but I just know this, and it does work. And the great part about them is that they make it to where you can actually use them in your class.
Right.
Because most CTSOs, or actually all CTSOs, are co-curricular. Mm-hmm. And they're not extracurricular. So, yeah, you can have after-school meetings, but you should be teaching what they're going to be doing in contests or whatever in class anyways, because it's stuff you have to teach them anyways. And
and you hit on a great point that, this is one way. Every one of us, if you're in Texas, you have TEAK, TEAKs for your class, and all of them have an employability skills piece, but it's hard because it's probably not in your textbook, right? Or it's not in your typical order of business or whatever.
Right.
But that CTSO can be that area where you can bring it in. And the point you made that it's co-curricular, I think so many people see that as, well, I don't want to do another after-school program, but it doesn't have to be.
No.
It can be totally a part of your day-to-day operations and those kind of things. And so, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and each of these organizations, if you go to the store or whatever, you can go in there and they have books on these, and they give you ideas and activities. There was one that I can remember was it's called Ignite. Mm-hmm. And I have it somewhere. I meant to grab it before I walked in here because I'm like, hey, Ignite, do this. I was going to do the whole book, employee, even though I have nothing to do with it. But but with Ignite, it has like lessons and ideas on how you can use them in your classroom to help teach those skills alongside your content. And there's a lot of those books that are out there, and they're pretty phenomenal. So just use the resources that your CTSO has. There's also the, I think there's a whole program that Skills USA has also that teaches you those essential skills that allow you. It's just like a lesson plans and stuff that you can incorporate throughout your class.
Oh yeah.
And they're good. It used to be called the Professional Development Plan, or PDP,
right.
and then they had the Career Essentials, and they're switching to something else. I mean, anybody that Skills USA is going to yell at me for not knowing that, right? Because I should know what it is because I'm not using it right now. Right. But I've been using my Ignite book. But they want these, and the organizations know what the businesses have told these organizations. This is what we need, and that's why they develop these plans. And these plans are usually helped develop by business, so that way we're teaching the kids the right thing, not just something that we think, oh, they need to learn how to give a speech. No, it's like, they need to learn how to interview. They need to learn how to come to work on time. They need to learn how to, those types of things. So
tell me about, while we're on CTSOs, talk about the different contests that they can participate in. Obviously, you're an expert on skills. You're one of our directors. But I know HOSA and FBLA and all those have similar things. So what kind of contests would really be focused mainly on employability skills?
Well, there's a lot of they call them the leadership contests is what most of them are called, and they're called leadership because any content area can use those. So you have so if you're in welding or in cosmetology, you're competing against each other in these. So you have for one, there's a job skill demonstration A in Skills USA, which is where you have to do a job skill demonstration in 5 minutes that promotes your that's with your program. So like if you're in construction, it could be how to change a blade on a skill saw or something.
Sure.
And it's the content is important, but the actual how do you actually teach that is important. They're not focused necessarily on the actual thing. They're focused on, can you put together a lesson for 5 minutes to teach me how to do a skill? Right. And same thing with Job Skill Open. The only difference between that is that it doesn't have to be in your content area. Like I had a girl go to state in it one time because she worked at Dion's Pizza, and she taught them how to make a pizza in 5 minutes. It was amazing. There was flour everywhere. It was great. But it was, cool. But she did a really good job. Made it to state, and I think she did okay at state. I don't know what she got. She didn't top the top three, but so there's those two. Then you also have a job interview, which is for you walk in, you have to fill out an application. You have to go through a whole interview process and try and get a job. And it's pretty generic most of the time. Then you have, if you have a student, or if you are a kid with a 504 or a special ed or IEP of any sort, you're able to do a employment application process, which is geared towards them. Because a lot of students, they just need a little, may not be on the same playing field as like the other ones, but they can still do it. They can still go through a job application, and it gives them a shot to make it to that point.
That's awesome. Then
you also have prepared speech, where you actually have to prepare a long speech based off of the theme for the year. And that one's tough. I've never actually had a kid do that because my kids are all introverted nerds and they don't want to. So I've tried, but it is what it is. Then you have extemporaneous speaking, where you have 5 minutes to prep. They give you a topic. You have 5 minutes to prep, 5 minutes to speak, and you're out. And that one, I've had kids do that one because they're like, yeah, I can do that, whatever. And I've never had anybody make it a state in that, but they did all right. And then you also have, there's customer service, where they actually, you walk in and sometimes they're really mean, but it's very entertaining to watch if you're from the outside, because like there'll be somebody that walks in the door and they be like, hey, I want to do this thing with it's like you work at a daycare, you have a script kind of sort of, you work at a daycare, these parents are going to come in and these are their names or whatever. And you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen, but you don't know what they're going to say or how they're going to act. And so one person may be coming in and I'm like, hey, I'm looking at, bringing my kid here to this daycare. And then they go, and you're like, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll show you around. And then somebody comes busting in and say, I'm going to come get, my boy Tommy out of here. And, they're like, I'm coming to get him now. And well, sir, you're not on the list, because they have like a guest list, or people that can take them out like at school. And they're like, well, you're not on the list. And he's like, well, why am I on the list? I don't know. You're not on the list. Like, you can't take your, and they have to figure out a way to diffuse that. And then there may be somebody calling on the phone at the same time,
Oh, wow.
and this is all happening at the same time. And it's like I said, entertaining to watch from the outside. It feels so bad for the kids sometimes, but some of them do really good.
That's crazy.
And I was actually a judge and part of that for COVID for post-secondary. And I mean, it was afterwards. I was crying. I was laughing so hard. And the kids enjoy it because they think it's fun too. Because it is, because you really have no idea what to expect. But if you have good customer service skills and things like that, they're able to actually. They do pretty good at getting through it. Another one is action skills, which is like the job skill demonstrations, but it's for kids with IEPs or 504s and things like that. And it just kind of puts them on that same playing field. And it's a job skill open. Is basically what it is. It's just skills, it's just called action skills. I'm trying to think of the other ones. I mean, there's a bunch of them that are out there, but those are like kind of like the main ones, I guess, that most people go through. I know I'm missing one. It's going to hit me in a second. I'm going to yell it out. And like,
blurt it out. I even see it a lot. Like I know when I would lead contests, even if they were more, skills-based contests, there's an expectation. Like, I'm going to give you points if you walk in and shake my hand or look me in the eye, things like that. I'm going to give you extra points for that. So even that's a part of it for sure.
It is. And it's the full professionalism. I mean, it's like you want to make sure that they are going to, as they walk into the room, they know how to shake a hand. Hey, how are you? It's nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. Right. And a lot of times in contests, they can't really say their name because they're a number.
I'm contestant number 496.
Yeah.
4, 8. Like,
they're just a contestant. They're a number because we don't want to associate them with anybody, and so we try to make it as fair as possible. But you do want to walk in and, hey, how are you? And I always tell my kids to go shake the judge's hand and all that. There's other contests like there's leadership or in the leadership category that are teams, which teaches collaboration and those types of things. So there's like Quiz Bowl. Is one of them,
Quiz Bowl's so fun.
And if you've never done a Quiz Bowl, it's one of the most energetic and entertaining. I mean, just watch it because it's think of Jeopardy. I mean, you're looking at Jeopardy here, and they're getting these questions asked to them, and they have a real short period of time to answer them. You have 10 seconds to get the answer out, or people are buzzing before the question's even done. People are yelling, screaming at each other, and it's one of the more entertaining ones. It's like the math ones. The kids that can sit there and do math that quick in their head.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I mean, it's like, and they have 10 seconds to answer that. It can be this problem that's like 9 numbers added, subtracted, and divided. And you'll see one kid right after they finish asking the question buzz in and answer it correctly. And there's no way they got that question beforehand.
Human calculator.
Right? And I had one of those one year. Remember Tommy? Tommy could, I mean, he just sit there, boom. And it's like, wow. And it's cool to see those because you get to see other aspects of them and what other knowledge they have, because it's a general knowledge quiz bowl most of the time in the Skills USA quiz bowl. There's also other occupational quiz bowls for automotive, IT, audio video production.
Law, I think
has one. Yeah, health sciences. Yeah. They all have them.
That you mentioned the collaboration side, especially in that game. It's like people realize really quickly, oh, you're good in this knowledge area, and you're good in this, and they start to rely on each other, and it just happens generically. Like, you don't have to tell them, but they're like, oh, so and so's good at the math. You're getting all the math problems, and that's just
how it is. Yeah,
for sure. So it does definitely teach them how to work as a team.
Yeah, and like as a teacher, as an instructor, I try to identify those kids, and I mean, we've been very successful the last several years in my I'm taking kids to state and quiz bowl because I identify the kids that are okay. You're really good at math. You're really good at pop culture. Right. You watch TMZ. Okay, cool. You're good. You know what I mean? Hey, that's and so English, just spelling. You got
the most random thing in the world. You're on the team. As we're talking about the competitions that they can compete in, I love the equity and the availability, the access. It doesn't matter what level a kid is at, they have an opportunity to participate. And that's really cool. I think that's something important that CTE classes in general probably at one time were not good at.
Right.
And I think there's been a real push to make that happen, to make that access happen more so. So I'm glad to hear that.
All these organizations tend to have some sort of like equity or whatever, because they want all students to be involved. And it's just, it's a product of the school district as a whole, as, being a state organization or being a a national organization, they want to make sure every kid's involved,
For sure.
and every kid has a chance to do something,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty neat, and a lot of the teachers and stuff and the advisors that put a little extra effort into getting those kids more involved is power to them. It's awesome.
That is cool. Just bring it back down to the classroom level. And one of the cool things that I get to do in my new job,
Is you fancy?
yeah, right, is help teachers develop a scope and sequence for their class, right? And so, core classes, a lot of that stuff is like already cut and dry for them. But for CTE classes, you may be an island, be the only person teaching IT like you are,
Right.
and so being able to go through and develop the scope and sequence, like, kind of a year at a glance and those kind of things. And we always put in an employability skills section in there. And
Right.
that's where things like the frameworks come in, gives them some curriculum for that. And of course, all the different CTSOs have different ones too, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But even as I look back and think about employability skills, it's almost like, yes, that's good that you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it almost needs to be a part of your everyday life too. So
Mm-hmm.
what kind of things do you guys do? How do you incorporate employability skills in your classroom?
So, kids, they need to be on time for one. If they're wandering the halls, they get kind of tardy. I can't fire a kid,
Much as we want to.
Yeah, we've talked about this. You can't do it. I've asked.
Right.
They said no, but I try to get them to come in and be on time. Make sure that they are doing the work. They have an assignment or whatever. They come in, sit down, start working, work until the bell rings or work until their job's done. And if they get done with their job, then they need to find something else to do. Right. It's not sit on your phone. It's not go play video games. It's not that they need to go and try and find something else to do, whether it's help me do something, work on something from another class,
Right.
be busy.
Right.
No, it's not nap time. It's, that's really my biggest thing is just is they come in on time, do those things. Mm-hmm. And if they say they're going to do something, a project or a project or they wanted to put together some sort of fundraiser or some sort of a community service project, follow through. Yeah. We're doing the follow through with them. And I try to keep them on task, just be like, you need to get this done. Or where are you at on this? Give them goals to reach before the event or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where it's really, I do short goals, short-term goals. So that way this keeps them on track. That's cool. That's kind of how I've done it in the past.
That's cool.
Yeah. I know you've done a lot of that in the years too. But,
for sure. We, and I've talked about this before, one of the cool things is so many of the folks that teach in this building were business owners or things like that. And you mentioned you can't fire a kid, that definitely is something you have to get used to. But just incorporating that real world scenario, like you said, with your kids, like, hey, stay busy, keep focused on the task, don't back down. Is even in the everyday, the way you treat the kids. And, that was one of the things we always told the kids when they came. It's like, this is not your typical English class, math class. We want to get you ready to go into the industry where you may end up working for a guy that's pretty tough or a gal that's pretty tough. They're going to expect a lot of you. And so as a teacher, I'm going to help you get your stuff done, but I'm going to expect a lot of you too. Not that your English teacher's not,
right.
But, we're going to have real talk. And, if you build something that is not to par, then you're going to rebuild it, right? It's just the way it is. And being able to have those conversations, being able to help a student understand that, hey, people can give you feedback and it's a gift, right? And not everybody's going to be great at giving you feedback.
Right.
And so you just have to understand they're trying to help you be better. We had a teacher last year, unfortunately was only with us a year, but his students shook his hand when they came to class every single day, every single student. It was an expectation. And they walked in and they shook his hand and they went and sat down and got to business, And so I think setting those expectations early, I think there's an element of treating a student like a peer, not necessarily a peer, but like a human.
Yes. And not just a kid.
Yeah. Snot-nosed kid. We see a lot of teachers that are like, oh yeah, the little urchins. And I'm like, Yeah, these little urchins are gonna be paying my Social Security one of these days.
Yeah, I
So
need to teach them something.
yeah, they need to be able to retain those jobs because
Yeah.
job security.
And it's, I want to be we're working to be a plumber. We need plumbers. I need
That's
this
right.
kid to stay in here because I like indoor toilets. So I don't want to go back to
pooping.
outhouses. It's true though. And
true.
I mean, and it's, you want these things, but you got to treat the kids like they're adults. Otherwise they're going to be wanted treated like kids all the time. And that's, I don't baby my kids. That's the same thing.
Sure.
You don't baby them.
Sure.
Yeah, you can help them. They're still kids.
Sure.
But you don't, if they don't get their stuff turned in, that's on them. I'm not going to sit there and hound you, get your stuff turned in. I gave you the opportunity. I gave you extra opportunity, get it turned in. And that's all part of just being, growing up and being a, responsible.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like the Skills USA's motto or whatever. I don't know if it's the motto, but responsible American citizens. And I probably should know what that one is. Anyway, whenever I see it, I know it.
Yeah, right.
But it's that's what the goal of all CTE teachers is we're here to produce and to grow all these kids to be respectable and productive American citizens across. So that way, whenever we retire, the world keeps spinning.
For sure.
Yeah, and so I know that we're better than them, but but
right.
it's like, but you gotta, but you want them to be better than you at some point. So you got to give them those skills and knowledge and know-how and will to grow.
And I think that's something as teachers you have to keep on the forefront of your mind, right? Like you've got to constantly be reminding kids, the little things like the guy that shook the kid's hands, that's an art, that's a skill, but you have to be intentional about it. I think some teachers just, getting to go around and watch people teach, which has been really fun. Some teachers just do it generically, like it's a part of their culture, it's a part of what they do. Some teachers don't incorporate the soft skills because they're so focused on the technical side, which again, not a bad thing. Like we have those standards too. We want them to master your content area. But I think with those teachers, I think as teachers in general, we have to constantly be reflecting on our craft and thinking about, okay, am I bringing this piece in? And if not, like if I don't do that naturally, then how can I, like what tools can I do it? Do I need frameworks from skills or do I just need to like set a reminder on my phone that, hey, for this 1 minute, we're going to talk about how you introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Or something as simple as we're going to talk about the importance of making eye contact with somebody when you're talking to them. I think if you don't do that generically, you have to be intentional about incorporating those things into your program.
Yeah, and some of our kids, it's hard for them too because it's gotten harder since the pandemic because so many kids, they didn't have to interact, they weren't forced to, they weren't required to, and so they sat at home by themselves and were completely fine talking on Discord with their kids, playing nerd games, and not having to actually communicate and talk to somebody in person. And whenever they came back, that's been the biggest struggle for me is whenever they started coming back, getting them to actually communicate and to talk and to verbalize things. I mean, literally the year that I came back, or the 2020, we came back after the world's longest spring break. The kids, they were quiet. They were the quietest classes I've ever had. And I don't know if it was the mask. They didn't want to hear themselves like that. Or if it was they just hadn't had to, so they didn't want to talk to anybody. And that was one of the hardest years I've ever had to teach because you still have a few that were still online.
Sure.
And you had people that were in class. And it was just this whole hodgepodge. And it actually changed the way I taught.
Really?
And it really, because it made it to where, how do I get these kids out of the shell? And I started incorporating these things more into it with communication skills and being able to talk to one another, collaboration, and talking with me and all that. I still don't do it, and I've wanted to for years. Do the handshake at the door. Usually I'm down the hallway working on something and running back, and so I just never got to. It's hard for me. I can, and if I'm at the door, I shake my hand, but or knucks or high five or elbow, whatever you want to do. I don't really care. It's just a greeting, hi, because I have kids even in my photography class that I'll say hi and they just kind of walk past me. I'm like, hi. Or they don't even say bye, and whenever and I'll be like bye, until they say bye, I annoy them until they at least acknowledge that I told them bye, and it's like and it's those things that they haven't had to do and nobody's really made them do, and if you end up starting to work with them more, they'll they'll get the hang of it.
Sure.
Because it'd be nice, I guess.
Well, the reality is, probably not too many people in their lives are focusing on that. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're just,
It's true.
the home is different, right? And so, where we may have seen our parents growing up demonstrate some of those skills, maybe that's happening, maybe it's not, for these students. Other core classes probably focused more on the mastery of the skills because, let's be honest, there's an accountability level to that. And so we have that unique ability to be able to, and because of our connection to, hey, we're directly talking about getting a job.
Right.
Then it's a natural segue for us.
Right. And then we can incorporate those a lot, like you're saying, simpler, because you need to teach, how do you do a resume?
Right.
How do you do a job interview? And you can have those fake mock job interviews within your class. And you can bring in resumes and you can critique the resumes. You can have others to critique the resumes. And how do you make these things go together so that way they have those little skills to get there, to get a job. I've brought in people. I haven't done it the last couple of years since COVID, but I brought in some people about resume writing, and I'd have them before that person would come in, I'd have the kids write a resume the day or 2 days beforehand. I'd give that person all the resumes and have them grade them, and it was usually somebody at tech or somebody that taught employability or communication or whatever that is used to seeing these things, and I'd have them go through them. And they'd grade them.
Yeah,
I didn't grade them.
Cool.
They graded them, and they'd bring them in, and they'd talk about the good ones, and they'd talk about the bad ones, and not too harsh. I mean,
Sure.
they weren't sending them on blast unless a kid literally just did a terrible resume that they put their name and left the what is it, the
Laurel Mitchell.
Yeah, Laurel, the Latin all through it. Then they'd kind of blast them on that, but that was that was a cool one that I used to do, that we would that because it gave them that. I was like, this is a real person that could hire you. Yeah. It's like, I can't hire you or fire you. You just come to my class no matter what. Right. And so this is your chance to get some real feedback and get some real tips. And then I have them go back and rewrite them after that. And then that was a really good lesson that I did.
That is cool. We've had lots of, on our advisory boards, invariably we get HR people from the different fields, right? And they are constantly like, hey, if you need us to come do mock interviews or anything like that, and they'll be there. All you got to do is call them, and they will come, and you can run your kids through mock interviews, which is super cool. I think we forget sometimes, even adults I know, that just get totally nervous. I was actually had the honor of serving on an Eagle Scout board just a couple of nights ago. And the kid, he's there, and he's as nervous as he can be. And I just told him, I was like, look, this is probably the most intense job interview you'll ever have. But you know what? When you go out in the real world, you're going to be fine because you can sit through something like this. And the more experiences that our students have doing interviews and being able to sit in front of an adult and have an intelligent conversation about what you're doing, that's amazing. Like you said, when we went through COVID, these kids lost a skill of communicate. And then the flip side of that is the online communication, and I would never condone violence, but I saw the quote the other day that said, when we were kids and you said something, you got punched in the mouth. Right. and maybe the problem is you can say something on Facebook or whatever, and
there's no repercussion.
No recourse, right? No recourse. And so, helping them to learn appropriate conversations too, that's important.
And it's, I one of my students went through that Eagle Scout thing. He was nervous, and I was like, dude, you got this.
Mr. Grove.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah. He was, and he came in yesterday. It was today. Was that yesterday or the other day or whatever? But anyways, he came and gave me a high five, and because I wrote a letter of recommendation for him.
Cool.
Yeah, it was. Nice. I was really excited. I was curious on how he did it, but it was really nice to hear that he got it. He was super excited and proud. Awesome. But yeah, it's like, whenever you get into even like scouts and stuff, it teaches leadership. It teaches those things, work ethic and community and things that you need to be instilled in your lives. And that's what, us as CT teachers try to do. We talk with Michelle on our last podcast, and FFA, it's about community. It's about leadership. It's about growing yourself as a person and not just growing plants. It's or an animal even. It's just, you're trying to, it's these job skills are needed for everything. And also just in society, you need to have great people. And that's where I'm really hoping to incorporate more, encourage other teachers across the state and across the nation to continue to grow employability skills and not just technical skills.
Right.
Use those frameworks and those different things that you can get from your CTSOs, and read books or whatever you want to do.
Right.
You take lessons from scouting or any other organization that you've been a part of in your life, because they all have these things. And just go back and just think, how did we teach this whenever I was a kid?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've tried to do
Yeah.
too in my classes is, how did my teachers teach me this? I mean, my parents were pretty good at it, but not all kids have that opportunity. And it's and as teachers and as school district employees, sometimes we have to help, and that's how we do it.
I think one of the best representations that I've seen for employability skills is when you look at those district and state officers with your whether it be skills or any of those, even national officers. To think that you've got a student, right? Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, basically running an organization on a national level.
Yep.
That's phenomenal. And then to have that person come in and talk to other students and say, "Hey, I'm nothing special. Like, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do and, taking care of business, and you can too." I mean, that's huge, and to be able to see those kids who can get up there and comport themselves better than a lot of adults, that's pretty impressive.
And I mean, from the years that I've been doing this, and I tell my kids and students, they're my kids, but my students, they whenever we do, I have kids that'll go through and make district officer, and so they have to go through summer leadership. And I tell them, I go, when you go to summer leadership, it's going to be ridiculous. It's going to be this. They're going to do things. You're like, this is stupid. But I go, do it. I go, I promise you, if you do it, you're going to have an amazing time. You're going to learn a lot. Yeah. They do it just to engage you, to take you out of your comfort zone, to grow you.
Right.
And I go, after this, if you do what they tell you to do, you will come out of there a changed person. You will learn these things, communication, employability skills. I mean, everything you can think of to be a leader, leadership skills, coming out of that. And if you incorporate that and continue working on it, you're going to be it'll take you to that next level of leadership. And every single kid I've ever taken to one of those that went through it and did it became a different person. Yeah, and it's absolutely, it's crazy to actually see how different they become. Yeah. And they don't believe me until after they're done. And like, you're right, Grace. I'm like, of course I'm right. Yeah, duh.
I'm great.
I'm always right. Exactly. But it's like the summer leaderships and then I've taken them to DC and, sure. And then same thing. And they just learn these, it's Washington Leadership Institute and they learn how to talk to Congress people. And they learn these skills of communication and job interviews and all that. It's really it's cool to see them if you get them involved. And if you as a teacher, you get involved because it actually teaches you those things too.
Right. For sure.
Yeah.
So as I'm thinking, okay, I'm a new teacher out here somewhere. Maybe I'm a teacher that I just suck at doing employability skills, right? Yeah. What advice would you give, or what simple things could somebody do to really start pulling these things into their classroom and helping grow their students?
You put me on the spot. I mean, really just talk to other teachers that are already doing it. And I've learned a lot from other teachers on how they incorporate these things. Even if it's, you're talking to, I mean, for one, we've talked about Cassie Sanders before.
Sure. Oh yeah.
I've learned a lot from her on how she incorporates some of these things into her classroom. And she was, a floral design teacher. I teach IT, it has nothing to do with floral design. Sure. But, and then I've talked with automotive teachers, Mike Garrett and, Jerry Mitchell, those I've mentioned them before too. They were mentors in my life because I got to talk to them, and they taught me a lot about how they did classroom management or how they taught these kids how to be employees. And a lot of it comes down to relationships. If the kid can trust you, they're going to take everything you have and they're going to want to do more. And if you show that interest and care, they'll end up showing an interest and care. And I've learned that numerous times. I have this kid that comes in that is he doesn't want to talk to anybody, and he's a jerk, to say the least. less terms, but that he's a jerk or she's a jerk, and I'm not going to just leave it to the he's because I've had both. But they come in and they don't want to do anything or whatever, but you start getting that relationship with them. You learn what's going on with their lives, and then they'll do anything. Yeah. And then you start teaching them those employability skills, those communication skills, how to work through some stuff, and they become great, productive people as long as they continue working on it once they leave you. And that's one of the things that I've tried to instill in my kids for years is, and there may be days that we'll sit in class, not do anything IT, and just talk about this stuff because it's what they want to learn about it. So they had a question, and it just grows into this thing where we spend, 45 minutes to an hour talking about things like this. And sometimes you got to do that, and it's worth it. Sure. Yeah, you may have missed a day of regular instruction of learning how to make a Cat5 cable, but you hit those kids in a spot that they were interested in, and they're going to remember that forever.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think being intentional, being reflective, and knowing where you're missing the bar. Yeah. But you hit it on the head too. Find somebody that's doing it well, and try to emulate them. You mentioned Cassie. There's probably not anybody in this building that has stolen some kind of activity.
I've stolen everything from you.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just share your Google Drive with me.
Yeah, I just need that.
Yeah,
it's
for
gold.
Sure. So, and then the other thing I think is to be reflective on yourself as far as, am I doing those things? Am I living that life? Like I know the picture that I want my student to be at the end of the day or at the end of the year. Do I look like that?
Yeah.
And if I don't, like, whose fault is that? Well, that's mine. And if I'm telling a student to do one thing and I'm acting in a different way,
yeah,
it might not work out too good,
And that's it. Is you need to emulate what you do. Right. And a lot of these kids, you are the parental figure in some of their lives.
Yeah, oftentimes.
And they're looking for that. They're looking for somebody to emulate and imitate and to grow with, and see somebody that's successful in what they're doing. And if you continue to show the kids that what you do, and they'll start doing the same thing in their lives. I have a couple. Well, I mean, especially if you get them with multiple years. I've had a couple that have gone from turds and trouble all the time to kids that are rocking it in the real world. And I get message. I mean, in any teacher that does anything good, you get messages from your kids, especially fast kids, because it's really great to. And as a teacher, by the way, if any of my kids listen to this, please send more because I love them. It makes me feel good because it's things that we, as teachers, we need that feedback. But whenever they write you and tell you, you changed my life. Yeah. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. Those types of things. Those things help you as a teacher know, okay, I'm doing something right. And it also tells you, keep doing what I'm doing, continue, don't give up, so, but you all you have to do is it's relationships, knowing the kids, and because every kid learns differently. And at the beginning of the year, it's always hard because you got to figure the kids out. Yep. How are they going to learn? You know, and whenever you get into the employability skills and stuff, and some of it's kind of dry. I can write a resume. I mean, but but you're writing about yourself. So, I go, that's what most of y'all want to do anyways, write about yourself. So it's I didn't realize that was up. So I kicked the microphone. That's funny. Anyways, we write about yourself. I mean, you're writing about yourself. So why is it a big deal to not write about yourself? I mean, you do all the accomplishments you've done. You have done good things. You just got to show them what those good things are. Yep. And then as they get through it older, they're going to change those good things to things that are better, that really show the person they are.
Right. And we have a unique place. I think a lot of times as CTE teachers, it's easier to build the relationships. You talk to most people and they're going to be like, oh, my shop teacher or my whatever, that was my favorite teacher, or that's the one that changed my life, or, and so, you take that kid, you've already got the potential for that relationship. And then you've got a kid who maybe's had his head down all through English and science, and maybe he's, your typical C student or whatever. And then you're like sticking your hand out to shake their hand. Yep. You're like, no, look me in the eye. Like you're a man or you're a woman. Let's talk. You know what I mean? Like just treating them like a human being and saying, no, it's okay. We can make eye contact. We can say hello. We can say goodbye. We can talk about jobs. We can talk about, what you've done, all those kind of things. I think we're kind of uniquely suited for that role. as well. And like you said, we're going to make a huge impact on their lives.
Mm-hmm. And as we continue to do it, and as more teachers continue to do it more and more, it's going to make an impact on society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And I think we're going to see a lot more kids grow into great humans, and we'll continue to do, continue to do great things. And and we'll have indoor plumbing.
And we'll have indoor plumbing. Yeah, I was going to say our country needs great humans, and then I was like, our country really needs indoor plumbing.
Right, and we need that also.
Mostly indoor plumbing. No.
Right.
Brandon, this was great, man.
Yeah.
I don't think we can talk about employability skills enough because I think it's just so core.
Yeah.
So this was a good talk.
Yeah, we can go forever. I mean,
sure.
and it's not the last conversation we're going to have about employability. No. We're going to bring other people in that have more insight than even we have in it.
Yeah,
so,
sure. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks.